Rising global gas prices are making a lot of people feel helpless, but thankfully the solution is easier than you think. For around 5 grand, some under, here are 5 vehicles that can easily achieve 100 miles to the gallon. The most sold motor vehicle in history. No, it is not the Toyota Corolla. The real answer is this humble Honda Supercub, obliterating the Corolla sales at over 110 million units sold. It gets an advertised 188 miles to the gallon. Its real-world testing in America has shown that it gets around 150 to 170. This is due to the fact that American road speeds are a lot higher than Japanese road speeds where this vehicle originates from, but that's nothing to cry about. You're definitely getting very good gas economy. It does use 87 octane, so you can even push the cheapest button and save yourself more cash. With 10 horsepower, that's more than 10 times the horsepower of most scooters that only have 1 or 2, and it has a 65 mile top speed, which again is more than twice the top speed of most scooters, and a 4-speed semi-automatic gearbox, which makes 3 more gears than most scooters, which only have 1 gear, and a weight of 240 pounds. It's pretty obvious what I'm trying to sell to you here is a vehicle that is actually usable on American roads. 10 horsepower for a lightweight 240 pound vehicle is a fantastic power to weight ratio. You can drop down a gear and still pass people because you actually have gears to choose from. 65 mile top speed makes it where you can traverse basically every single road but the highway. Because it's a semi-automatic transmission, it does not have a clutch, therefore you can never stall this vehicle, and if you're someone who lives in a very hilly area and you're scared of stalling because of that, this will give you a lot of rider confidence. It is a partial step through, which means that it doesn't have a floorboard. It still has traditional pegs because it doesn't actually go all the way down. This, however, in my opinion, makes it look pretty cool. I don't like the way full step throughs look, that's kind of personal preference, but the partial step through is more than enough for people who wear skirts where you're not flashing everyone as you mount the vehicle. Also for older people who aren't as flexible anymore, it's super nice, and also just guys who wear trench coats, you don't have to kick your leg over it, you just step through it. You also won't kick your passenger in the face when you mount this vehicle because again, it's a step through. This is a very easy vehicle to ride. 70-year-old grandpas in Thailand, they will ride with their whole family on the back of these, and there are high school girls in Japan who commute to school on this. The next vehicle on this list is another vehicle that I own. That's the extent of vehicles that I own. I'm not made of money, but it is also another really good capable commuter, which is the Royal Enfield Meteor 350. This is a proper mid-sized motorcycle, so for anyone who's watching this video so far who's like, oh, it's just gonna be a video full of scooters, we're not just gonna have suburban sprawlers, urban crawlers, we're gonna have a highway brawler as well. This is a vehicle that gets 100 miles to the gallon in city, but will only get around 82 miles to the gallon on the highway. Again, American road speeds are much higher than Britain or India. I average around 88 to 92 mpg on my Royal Enfield because I do a mix of city and highway, but that's nothing to cry about. 90 miles to the gallon, I mean, come on. This vehicle has twice the horsepower of the Super Cub I talked about and a lot more torque, 20 horsepower and 22 newton meters of torque, and a top speed of 82 miles an hour. It depends on if you're going up a hill or not, or roughly 80 on flat ground. But it is capable of highway commuting. It's a 5-speed manual, and albeit you're not gonna really be the fastest thing on the highway, and we'll get to that later, but the point is this is a very capable vehicle of basically taking you anywhere in America, and with how comfortable it is, it's 84 inches long, so it's super stable at highway speeds. Going 65-70, this vehicle is very stable, and the engine is very smooth. Royal Enfield has definitely brought their engines into the future. It's no wonder that they've been selling literal millions upon millions of these in the past few years. The big 19-inch front wheel and 17-inch rear wheel makes it really comfy, and it soaks up potholes, soaks up bumps in the road, and the big plush seat is super comfortable. The 84 inches length also makes it where if you're up to 6'3", you can fit on this vehicle and actually still feel not just comfortable, but also look proper, because you do kind of look a bit goofy when you're 6'2" sitting on a Super Cub. Some people care about style. You want that proper mid-sized motorcycle look. At a seat height of just 30.1 inches, the Royal Enfield is not intimidating for those who are shorter, so people who are around 5'5" can still easily flatfoot this vehicle. The bike weighs just a tad over 400 pounds wet, so it's not that heavy at all, and it's super easy to manage still. This is a fantastic starter bike, and it's a great lifetime bike even, as many riders who've ridden and owned several motorcycles still appreciate the Royal Enfield's ease of use, and really, this is the conclusion I'll talk about it. So now we'll get to what I wanted to say earlier. When you buy a Royal Enfield, you leave your ego at the door. You won't be the fastest, you won't be the loudest, you won't be the most expensive, but you will be the happiest. This Royal Enfield's long stroke engine still makes a nice thump sound. It's not a super loud sound, but it's not a super boring soulless sound either. For for a single cylinder engine, it's actually made a lot of people realize that it can still have a decent amount of character. It has plenty of space, cool retro style, and it has an amazing 3-year full coverage, unlimited mile warranty that would make Doug DeMuro proud, but he would definitely agree. Instead of, I guess it's not bumper to bumper here, we'll have to say fender to fender, but it's a fender to fender full coverage warranty. And this is very confidence inspiring for someone who's just looking for a commuter and costs them pennies on the dime. The Royal Enfield Meteor will retail for $43.99 upwards of $47.49 depending on what options you picked. $5,000, this is the best vehicle money has ever bought me. The Honda Grom. The Honda Grom gets an advertised 134 miles to the gallon. Its real-world testing shows that it indeed gets around that, 130 to 140. The modern-day Groms are 5-speed manuals. They have a 65-mile top speed, and it shares the engine with the Honda Supercub. It is a 66-inch length vehicle, and it has really small 12-inch wheels. This is something that's not going to soak up bumps as well as the Supercub or Enfield, and you're going to definitely feel the bumps, and you want to weave around the potholes so you don't accidentally bottom out and throw yourself over the handlebars if you hit a big enough one. If you're taller than that, you will start to look goofy, and you will feel goofy on this vehicle. I have friends who are 6 feet tall who already start bumping their knees into the handlebars, and that's definitely problematic if you're planning on commuting, and not just using this as a toy or stunter. And that's the thing I do have to mention here. The Honda Grom is a fantastic commuter, super efficient, super fun, but unfortunately because it's a stunter or a toy vehicle, it's treated as a luxury item. A lot of people and dealers will really want $5,000 for new versions of these. If you're trying to buy used ones, there's still $4,000, and at that point, neither the new or used ones are actually going for the retail of $3,399. The next vehicle on this list, I don't care if you burn me on a stake for this, I'm going to say it, is basically similar to the Grom, and it's a Kawasaki Z125. This retails for $32.99, and my brother bought one of these, and I'm proud to say he bought it for retail, and you will see these at dealerships still going for their actual retail, unlike the Grom. It gets an advertised MPG of 135, though Americans have found out it gets roughly 90 to 123, so it is a bit less efficient than the Grom, but that's probably because it has more horsepower than it. It gets 14.5 horsepower as opposed to 10. It is a 31.7-inch seat height, making it a slightly taller seat height than the Grom, but that doesn't really matter because the vehicle only weighs 224.9 pounds, and it is 1 whopping inch longer than the Grom at 67 inches, and it still uses 12-inch wheels. The reality is this is not going to be a super comfortable vehicle either, but it's still really fun, punchy, and if you're a shorter person who actually wants a small vehicle, this might fit you better actually. And again, it is definitely a lot of styling when it comes to this. Some people really like the look of small mini bikes. It is also a manual transmission just like the Grom. The next vehicle on this list is another full-size motorcycle, but it's an interesting one. This is the Lafon KPR 200. Retailing at the cheapest vehicle on this entire video, it is $2,699. It has an advertised 107 miles to the gallon with a real-world 94 miles to the gallon. If you're looking for a bit more punch than a Grom or Z125, but want something that's a heck of a lot cheaper and possibly more questionable in regards to build quality, look no further than the Chinese-made Lafon. Before you roll your eyes, Lafon has actually been known to make parts for Honda and still regularly supplies parts to them as well as other motorcycle, car, and moped manufacturers. The KPR 200 is a fuel-injected sub $3,000 motorcycle that gets up to 107 miles to the gallon, again realistically 94 in the United States based on our road speeds. It has a top speed of around 77 miles an hour, putting it just a few miles an hour shy of the Royal Enfield. It is a 6-speed gearbox, which is honestly more than you would expect for a bike this cheap. It actually has a gear indicator as well, so you know what gear you're in, which is again kind of shocking for a bike this cheap. There are bikes that are 3 times that price that still lack that feature. It has a single disc front and rear brake with built-in ABS included. It is a fuel injected vehicle, so you don't have any carburetor woes like you would with most cheap Chinese scooters or other small cc bikes you can buy off Amazon. It weighs around 335 pounds and has a seat height of 30.5 inches, making it really accessible. This is for the size of this vehicle. It's really light, and it's also super not intimidating at all to straddle. Bikes and Beards has a torture test for this bike, running it without oil, throwing it in the dirt multiple times, running it for 72 hours straight, and redlining it for a solid hour in each gear. And the bike survived and still remained in good health afterwards. There are many happy buyers and owners of this vehicle, but also a few unhappy ones who were unlucky enough to get a poorly assembled one. There are no physical Lafon on dealers in the United States, and its main distributor is Amazon. Yes, the same Amazon that you order random useless junk each month from. While it does come with a 2-year powertrain warranty, the dealer service on the rest of the vehicle is not stellar, and honestly, this is one that will come with a buyer beware warning with it. If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. It'll really help me out, especially considering that this is my first ever motorcycle video for this channel. So if you like what you're seeing, leaving a like and subscribing helps me out drastically so I can continue make what I love making. Before we get to the final entry, here's an honorable mention, the Honda CB350 Highness. Its price is more expensive than the Royal Enfield 350 worldwide, that is. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put N/A for the United States. The reason this is an honorable mention is I'm located in the US, and this is a vehicle that's not sold in America, and that's actually mad tragic when you consider that it is very similar to the Royal Enfield on paper, having the same horsepower, having roughly the same acceleration, and getting roughly the same gas mileage. Its main difference being that it's more sporty sounding and a little bit sportier looking and slightly more expensive, but I like that because it gives people an alternative to the Royal Enfield. Just in case they don't really vibe with the way the RE350 looks, they might vibe with the way this looks. So if you're looking for another commuter motorcycle and you don't live in the United States, definitely take a look at the CB350. If you do live in the US, I'm sorry I bothered showing you this because now you probably want one and now we're super sad that it's not here. Before we get any sadder though, let's talk about the final entry in this video, which is a Vespa Primavera / Sprint 50. This costs $4,099, so it's quite pricey compared to most vehicles on this list. It gets a 115 mpg advertised, but its real world in America is shown as little as 77 to 88. It's 73 inches long and has a 31.1 inch seat height and 11 to 12 inch wheels depending on the trim you chose. This long wheelbase actually makes the scooter really stable at speed. Its seat height is also higher than you would expect for a scooter, but it comes with the advantage of being a full step through, meaning that you can actually put your feet on the floorboards as opposed to putting them on pegs. So when you reach for those floorboards, you're not going to notice that this vehicle's not heavy, so you're going to be fine even with that higher seat height is what I'm trying to say. Now the main advantage that you would consider one of these is that they're a CVT automatic, meaning that they make one continuous fart sound. I'm just joking, of course. What I actually meant to say is that they're one continuous gear essentially. Yeah, you can also say it's an infinite amount of gears depending if you look at it. It depends on. That is both its best strength but also its worst weakness. The best strength meaning that this is a super accessible vehicle. It's an automatic, anyone can jump on it, quite literally twist and go. There is nothing tricky to this. It is its weakness because automatics in cars are super efficient because cars have the space and weight to fit very good systems and computers. Motorcycles obviously are much smaller than cars, so automatics are going to be a long time coming before they become as efficient as manual gearboxes. When it comes to motorcycles, having multiple gears completely obliterates automatic vehicles in terms of gas efficiency. So it's not a bad idea to learn a manual if you're someone who's willing to learn. If you don't, I'm not going to make fun of you. This is absolutely still a great choice. The other main appeal of this is that it can be ridden with a car license. This is a vehicle that, because it's 50cc, is legal in the States to use without a motorcycle license, though there is another caveat to this. I love Vespas, really I do. I love their style, I think they're super iconic, but I would recommend a Vespa 150. Reason being, a Vespa 50, while it is capable of be riding with a car license, I would only use this as a starter vehicle, and I would probably upgrade later, because you're limited to a 50-mile-an-hour top speed, but honestly it struggles anything past 35. This is not super usable on most American roads, and don't even think of the freeway, I'm serious. Which, funnily enough, the Vespa Sprint 150 is barely any more than the Vespa 50. It's like $1,000 more, and it is a way better vehicle. Vespas, of course, like I said, they are a bit more pricey than other vehicles because of their brand image and their heritage and their iconic styling. As to whether or not you think that iconic styling is a strength or a weakness depends on the eye of the beholder. And full step-through scooters like this have a long way coming before they become accepted by the general American public, but I, here on this channel, will absolutely always support them. A lot of these vehicles aren't nearly fast enough to pop wheelies or do triple digits, so they won't get you hurt as long as you're not stupid. And if I piqued your interest with any of these vehicles, make sure to leave a like to show your appreciation. Make sure to share this video with your friends as well, especially if they're struggling to find a way to commute around town, or if you yourself are just struggling to finally commute around town because of these gas prices and other things as well, because yeah, you know, cars are more than just gas when it comes to how much they cost. But other than that though, see y'all next time. Blade Angel out.